At the heart of every emotional musical theme is an even more emotional story. Without these stories written by gifted artists, music is just glorified background noise. And yet, there's still a mystery in between music and the character. What makes a character's theme so powerful? Is it just a tragic story? Not any music could fill those gaps. Is it the melody, the chord progression? My first foray into the Nier series was through Nier Replicant. And what continues to stand out to me today is how incredible the soundtrack was for every single minute of the game. To me, Replicant, or just original Nier, is the final part of an era of video game music that's both high quality in terms of production and memorable in terms of melody and harmony. One of my major complaints with reading any video game reviews, old or new, is how shallow their review of the music can be. Generally, if the composer put any effort to being polished or just professional, the reviewer says something like, "The soundtrack's amazing," or "The soundtrack's beautiful," or "The soundtrack was atmospheric and immersive." But really, they describe no detail for why the music is the way they describe it. They don't even tell us if the melodies are memorable or that there was any sort of sufficiently capable emoting of the character's story in the music, in the harmonies. How does the soundtrack sound? Is there any orchestra playing? What are the timbres? Can you describe the quality? Nier Replicant goes above and beyond by both playing to the strengths of unique, memorable themes for each character and place. The composers for the soundtrack used single melodies that can be easily recalled after playing the game for even just a few minutes, let alone for hours on end like we did. Additionally, they play into using the same themes over and over in different variations. This to me is really what most video game soundtracks should strive for, theme and variations. Now, some need to be atmospheric like a game like Stray, but for RPGs where you have players that are changing and going through different circumstances, you need a theme and variations to describe that. In this video, I'm diving deep into Emil's theme and what makes it so underrated and heartbreaking. It's important to note how Emil, while not being the main character of the Nier series, has quite the heavy, sad story about him. Originally experimented on with his sister, he becomes a sort of weapon, blinding those who look at him, much like a Medusa figure. As a way to cure himself, he fuses with his sister, who's also been turned into this unrecognizable weapon. And then we find that he's lost his sister, lost his own body, turned into a skeleton, but gains powers and a sort of immortality. Immortality, or to live indefinitely, is a sort of sadness in and of itself that I was first exposed to in the game Lost Odyssey, where part of the game's story was told in text fragments about tales about our characters from thousands of years ago. It's an even more sad concept to live long enough that you begin forgetting your own past. And it takes quite a skillful execution of such a sad story that the creator of Nier deliberately fuses it across his series from Nier Replicant to Nier Automata. While Emil seemingly lives forever, living becomes his relationship to death. Another way to say this is that forgetting becomes his own version of dying. A little bit of him is dying every moment he continues to live and form new memories. The sacrifice are his old memories. In addition to losing his body and his humanity, watching everyone else move on and the loss of his sister, he feels a sort of survivor's guilt over what his sister had to go through. He feels guilty for surviving while his sister not only suffered, but is now gone, and knowing that her existence was just one long tragedy. He gets to live his life at the expense of hers. Analyzing the chord progression follows a similar pattern to the melody. There's two sections divided into equal parts. What really makes this theme sad is its allusion to the Lament bass. We could call this progression ancient if you define anything from more than 400 years ago as ancient. It has been a chord progression many composers and musicians have used to convey death or depression or sadness. In a 1980 article in the College Music Symposium, William Kimmel writes, "Is the Lament bass has best known examples in Monteverdi's Amor Lamento della Ninfa, Dito's Lament and Purcell's Dito and Aeneas, and the Crucifix from Bach's Mass in B minor, first used in Bach's Cantata BWV 12 for the text that says weeping, crying, sorrowing, trembling are the Christian's daily bread. The contexts for each of the pieces Kimmel uses, Monteverdi, Purcell, and Bach, all use the descending bass, what Kimmel calls the Phrygian inflection, because the notes used can be found in the Phrygian mode with a semitone half step to conclude. These chord progressions are all descending bass, some chromatic, others modal, some long and others short. And I think the lament bass found in Emil's theme encapsulates the lament bass based on his story and explicit harmonic context found in the music. While the song doesn't have any explicit lyrics pointing toward death, in fact, none of the lyrics really mean anything. They're a chaos language. You can see other videos explaining chaos language in the Nier series. It can certainly be interpreted as sadness, pain, and death. If not explicitly a physical death, then a metaphorical death, and in the case of Emil, the death of memory. So what happens in the second half of the song? It's not quite the lament bass we found in the first half. Rather, it's a circle of fifths progression, another familiar and commonly used progression we find in Western classical music. While it's not explicitly representative of death, the lament bass musically represents being lowered into the grave, as an example. The circle of fifths progression can portray immortality, as it can be a progression that can seem to have really no beginning and no end as it goes round and round. Each chord sort of wants to go to the next one as we hear this constant dominant tonic pull. The harmonies move seamlessly between each other in stepwise motion. In the context of Emil's story, the progression matches it because the harmonies set up an expectation while also going nowhere at the same time, as heard in the round and round cadential progression. Because this is a commonly used progression used over hundreds and hundreds of years, it's important to note the deliberate sound world the composer wanted to convey. Instead of using foreign progressions, harmonies, or sounds, what's used is oddly familiar and even ancient sounding. The circle of fifths progression can seem to carry a mature sound. We find it in pieces like Marcello's Oboe Concerto or Handel's Passacaglia. Contrast that with Emil, who's only a child. He is not mature. This paradox creates a harmony that can be either consonant or dissonant depending on how you look at it. Just like extended harmonies can seem to be either dissonant or colorful depending on its context. The structure of Emil's theme can be broken into two halves as well, a sort of verse and chorus that complement one each other, just like we found in the lament bass complementing the circle of fifths progression, where we have death complement immortality. The melody in the first half is characterized by two leaps followed by steps downward. It's played back twice, but with embellishment both times. To me, these strong leaps followed by steps are reminiscent of themes like Roxas and Xion in Kingdom Hearts. Ironically, these themes are just as emotional as Emil's, if not more. Overall, the melody in this first half spans about an octave and can be really sung by anyone in their own vocal range. To me, what makes this melody special is its ability to blend with different non-chord tones, like becoming different 3-2 suspensions or 4-3 suspensions. These create a sort of longing feeling. It's not dissonance, but color, as the melody functions as extended harmony to the chord progression. Instead of a second or a fourth, we hear a ninth and an 11th. It's a unique flavor to these sad songs that simpler or even more complex melodies really don't have. It's just right. Not too simple, not too complex. The second half of the melody has a bit more movement as it alternates between steps and leaps rhythmically. Accompanying the part of this Melody is a different chord progression which provides additional relief and variety, that circle of fifths progression conveying immortality. If the first half was somber or reflective, this half is more hopeful and future-looking. The first half has a slower rhythmic progression, and the second half has more movement. Altogether, you don't need a sophisticated analysis to understand why Emil's theme is so sad. You just need to play the game. But I always think that it's beautiful in and of itself to reflect and at least attempt to explain why some music is more powerful than others. By processing and analyzing a musical theme, we, the audience, can have a deeper appreciation and enjoyment of that theme, as well as other themes like it. I hope this video did that for you like it did for me. Thanks for watching.